I don't know if everyone realizes this, but this is going to be the most important album of Travis Scott's career. And the main reason being he hasn't dropped an album in 4 years, which makes this the longest gap he's ever had in between two albums. So I just feel like the pressure is bigger than ever for him to deliver something of quality, because when you're making your fans wait that long for a body of work, they're going to expect greatness. But Travis Scott has never not delivered us that greatness, right?
And I agree with you, especially going back to his previous releases. Like, yes, the hype was always real with everything, right? I remember when Astroworld was being teased, everyone was waiting for it. But when it dropped, the quality and the content matched that hype, and that's why I think it was so successful and so many people enjoyed it. So I think from my standpoint, that's what I'm looking for. And already talking about the album direction is very interesting, because he has spoken about the idea of Utopia. He has spoken about, the types of directions he wants to go with the whole psychedelic rock. And I think that's where my hype is, really geared towards at the moment, is seeing how is he going to be able to execute on that, and how is he going to be able to create a different feeling than what I got on Astroworld.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this to be a situation where it's like, okay, cookie clutter. Let me get Astroworld Part 2 and then expect to be happy with it. But he's never really been that artist to do that, and he's always reinvented himself with every single project that he's released.
Yeah, he'll never give you a sequel, to be honest. And I do think that there is quite a few hurdles for him to overcome in order to reach the height that he was at after Astroworld, and also in 2020 when he was doing all those brand collaborations, had #1 singles. Because now I think after the Astroworld tragedy, there will be people coming in with biases. There will be people that are criticizing the album before it even comes out. And I just think that we have to stop having this narrative and this conversation of, oh, Travis Scott needs to redeem himself with this album. He needs to have a huge comeback, because at the end of the day, he's just going to be executing a vision musically. And I think that's where our focus should be, is what kind of music is he providing us after this huge wait?
Okay, so how do you feel about that as a fan? Waiting 4 years for music at this point. Do you really want to see him go into somewhere new, or do you want to see him go into something that he's already tapped into, or expand on that? Like, what do you want out of this album going into it?
There's a few things I want to tap into in this conversation. We'll start off with just where he's been at in terms of the most recent music he's been putting out. Then we can go into features, collaborators, and other conversations of what Utopia is. But starting off with his most recent work, to be honest with you, if we're counting out Mafia and Lost Forever, which was a song that, kind of became leaked and wasn't officially released, everything else he's put out after Astroworld, Highest in the Room, when you're looking at Escape Plan, Franchise, it's felt safe for Travis Scott. It's felt traditional, and I feel like he needs to come out of that comfort zone and really give us psychedelic rock, give us something new. So I don't think he's going to stay stagnant with the new release, but I do see where that concern comes in for some fans.
And it was a concern for me, because I'd gotten Escape Plan, and I told myself, this is something that I'd gotten off of Birds, right? Or this was something that I'd heard from him before, where it was just this high-paced, high-tempo party banger.
Bro,
that could
listen
be played.
to Escape Plan and then listen to the song Who What off Astroworld. They sound so similar.
I'm going to have to do that after this recording. I never really picked up on that. But even going to Highest in the Room, I get it. It was a cool song, but the issue with me was the replay value. I didn't feel the need to go back to that song all that much, because I feel as if he's kind of given me those vibes before, especially within songs. And I just want to see the way that he's going to be executing this vision, because that's the most important part for me in a Travis Scott experience, is the clarity within it, this soundscape and this sonic direction that no one else could even, let's say push forward, but Travis Scott can. And that's what I want to see throughout this, is the boundaries being pushed. So that's where my hype really, I guess, stems from with this album. Is what is he going to provide new that I haven't heard before? And talking about Lost Forever and Mafia, those were perfect, boundary pushers. Those were those were singles that I was like, okay, I see where he's going with this album. So do you want more of that? Do you want more of something else? What do you want from Travis Scott?
I think the main thing is just giving us a quality album experience. And that starts before we even get the album. It starts with the marketing cycle, because Travis Scott knows how to make his albums feel like events. And we saw last year that he was working on a movie with A24, which he showed us a script for. And I think the title was Utopia, but it was blocked out to kind of just tease something without really telling us what it is. So if there's a short film attached to this album, as well as a trailer and just other things that make the rollout really drive excitement, I think he's going to make this as big of an event as Astroworld was. And apart from that, I just love how Travis Scott is a transporter. He takes you from your reality to a totally different galaxy through the sounds. And that's what he's going to do again. He's going to provide a crazy soundscape. And what I want him to do, especially if the whole idea is to create a musical utopia, is to have maybe some more delicate tones, maybe some more uplifting music where you have this euphoric feeling to it, and it's not as dark as some of his other work. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for. And in terms of him tackling psychedelic rock, bring in Tame Impala. Give us some ambient synths. Give us something that's really slow tempo and gives him the room to croon or get introspective, right?
And I like that because the production is such a big factor in all of his track lists because it directs the tempo and the soundscape of everything that's going on. And, you know, the way that he's able to blend his vocals in production and the way that he's able to use vocal effects, auto-tune, reverb on everything that he does works really well with the types of productions that he tackles. And that was something that I liked to witness on a song like Lost Forever or Mafia because it was darker, but it was also psychedelic. It was quirky. It wasn't like anything that I heard from him before, and it was different than anything that he's ever performed before. But talking about production now, like, where do you think he needs to go with the soundscape to make it different? Do you think this psychedelic rock is the best fit for him, and where do you think he needs to execute on that?
Yeah, psychedelic rock would be fucking awesome, but I just think that, you know, Travis has to keep going with this futuristic direction that we heard on a song like The Plan or a song like Franchise, where it's totally out of left field, but in all the right ways. For example, with the Franchise beat, I love that he had these gunshot sound effects. I love that he was clipping the 808s on it. It just felt super innovative, and I just think that production-wise, he needs to bring in the synths. Maybe if he's going the psychedelic rock approach, bring in some electric guitar chords and, you know, mix in psychedelic music with some more mainstream rock sounds. That would be fucking dope because we haven't gotten that in a mainstream hip-hop album in a long time. But in terms of actual producers, let's talk about that because there's certain names that come to mind. Mike Dean is a lock because he's always providing quality fucking mixes.
Yeah, that's like the generic answer for like, what do you want in a Travis Scott album? Is like Mike Dean.
Metro
you know?
Boomin has to be, you know, heavily linked to this. I also want to see, of course, Tame Impala have a heavy hand, especially after, you know, what Kevin Parker did for Skeletons. That was one of my favorite beats that Travis Scott's ever hopped on. I'd also love to see Dot the Genius on here because he's provided some of the best trippy beats for Kid Cudi, and to see him enter into Travis's world, I know they did the Scotts together, but he's never really been part of a Travis Scott album. So that would be super dope. But what are other names that you'd want to see attached to this production-wise?
I think Dot the Genius is a great place to start. And what was interesting is that I was going through Dot the Genius's credits, and he doesn't have too many Travis Scott, you know, credits. The only one that I really saw, like through glancing through Genius, was the Scott. So expanding on that is going to be a really cool area to play in. And as you said, Kevin Parker needs to be a lock on this, especially if it's psychedelic rock. Boy Wonder, I mean, he is literally, I think he's top 3 producers out right now, like for sure. Like,
yeah,
like,
he's the king of drum programming.
Yeah, like when it comes to like even at that, I think he's probably like the best. Like if you have to get a producer on your album, like, and I had my choice, I would definitely choose like Boy Wonder. When it comes to the quality of the production, the drum programming, the types of the feeling behind the production, like that's so fucking cool. And I also love how he has this dark, gritty sound to him. So bringing that in to the psychedelic rock world could be really nice. And as you said, Metro Boomin is a perfect fit because Metro's not your traditional, you know, trap producer anymore. Like he has dove into so many different types of aesthetics. He's dove into so many different types of things that I think that could be implemented really well into this track list. And especially with the way that he's able to blend certain productions together, I think it'd be a really cool fit. But yes, talking about the soundscape as a whole, do you think that it's going to be similar to Astroworld in any sort of way? And how does he change it up, you know, especially moving forward with this new album?
I think it's going to depend on what Utopia means as an album. Like, what's the vision of Utopia? And Travis has spoken about what Utopia means to him. He's saying how it's this, not a perfect world, but an imaginary state where there's proper lines of communication, where he's promoting mental well-being. And I feel like if that's the route, then you have to have some more heavenly and bright sounds in that soundscape. But what interests me more than the soundscape, because we know how great that fucking soundscape is just the fact that this might be the most purposeful Travis Scott album in terms of its message. That's what really gets me, is just the fact that there might be a theme that binds every song together. And when looking at, world building, which Travis Scott has done so well, especially on Astroworld, where every song feels like a fucking roller coaster. With Utopia, to see Travis Scott's imagined heaven, but into the music form, that would be fucking mind-blowing. But another big conversation to have is the actual features. And what's cool about the way Travis Scott has rolled out him revealing the features for this album is that in 2021, he was actually giving chains to rappers, and whoever he gave a chain to, people started speculating that they would be on the album. So some names attached were Roddy Ricch, 21 Savage, Don Toliver, Young Thug, Luxury Tax, and Gunna. So are you happy with these names, and who else do you want to see there? Because for myself, The Weeknd has to be a lock because he's been on every Travis album and he needs to be on Utopia. But who do you want to see on this thing?
Who do I want to see on this? I think there's a couple of names. I feel as if The Weeknd definitely needs to bring, an excitement to the track list again. He's been on his previous 3 projects, so that needs to be a lock for me. And seeing what Dawn FM means to now, the overall music community this year is fucking amazing and super versatile as well. I really want to see Westside Gunn again. I mean, Lost Forever, man, would have been one of the best songs.
It could still make the track list.
And listen, I hope there is a feature, there is something there. And I've always said ASAP Rocky, but I think that's wishful thinking at this point. I don't think that'll ever happen. Sofago. I think Sofago is an artist I'd like to see strive on there, especially with the whole rumors and, the attachment to Cactus Jack and like all of that. I'd like to see that go down, but I want to see it be completely out of left field, to be honest. I don't want to be anticipating any features because going back to Astroworld, like, yes, a Gunna feature would be nice. Yes, Migos would be nice on it again. Like, I don't know at this point though. But, talking about like those trap features, you already know what they could kind of bring to a track list at this point, and you already know what the tempo of the production's going to be like and what that song will sound like.
They've still given us classics. Like, look at every collaboration between Travis and 21 Savage.
My
look
issue
at that.
is not the quality. My issue is the predictability factor. Like when we're talking about hype.
NC-17 wasn't that predictable. That was totally different sounding than something like Outside, for example.
But that's 21 Savage though. Like we're talking about a guy that has dipped into a multitude of different performances.
Yeah, but
like,
you said trap artists in general, so
I mean, like I'm talking more on the Gunna side of things, or more on the Migos side of things. Like if they make the album again, you kind of know what's going to be chased with those type of feature lists. But that's kind of my thing right now. I want to see the feature list actually get trimmed down a bit. I want to see how Travis is going to be able to attack solo material. But top 3 features you want to see here. What do you got?
I will go Black with Travis Scott. Okay. I'm gonna go with Kid Cudi once again, and last but not least,
one more. What do you got?
I'll probably go The Weeknd just because we know what they could do together. But what about you? Top 3?
Top 3. I'll go Kid Cudi again. That needs to be an absolute must. I want to go with Westside Gunn, get him back on the track list, and then I want to go with. I would probably say The Weeknd. I think those are 3 locks for me. Those are features that would make a really nice balance without the track list. But let's talk about final predictions and what these album sales mean. All right, because that's a big thing with the hype. I mean, it's a direct indication of how many people are going into this album. But there's the intangible factor of the actual music itself that's excluded from this conversation. But he did over 500,000 copies on Astroworld. Do you think that's going to transpire again, especially after the merch bundles are not included this time?
Do I think he's going to live up to the hype commercially? No, not necessarily. I think he is going to sell a lot of copies. I think he's going to put up 300,000 copies first week.
Low? You think he's going to do 300,000?
That's not that low, bro.
It's not
in today's
that low.
climate, like that's selling more than a J. Cole album. You know what I mean?
I know, and it's doing on the same level of Donda, but I'm saying that if he did 500,000, I think he could do 4. I think he'd do 4 to 450.
I just don't know if he's that height that he was at in 2020. I don't know if he's still
I think the hunger's
in that
there
position.
For that, though,
Maybe. I hope so. I hope he sells, 500,000, but my guess is 300,000. And in terms of him living up to the hype, he's never dropped a fucking single album with any filler. So I'm going to hold him to that gold standard and make the prediction that he's going to take us into a new universe once again and have one of the best world building albums that we've heard so far this decade. So I absolutely think that he will live up to the hype. But final question is release date. There's rumors of June. Do you think that's going to happen? What are you saying?
Okay, so my anticipation is probably going to be the summer, but I wouldn't be surprised if he drops before the summer to just have all this music roll out throughout it. But I am saying around that summertime time, and I think that when it does end up dropping, it will be the biggest drop of the year. So guys, we're going to be keeping you updated with this whole Utopia rollout. So everything from the album review to post rollout, whatever it is, NFR Podcast will have you covered. So please subscribe if you have not already. Plus, we will be doing a live album reaction, to Utopia once it drops. And we do live album reactions on a weekly basis on our Patreon plan with our community. We do it every week to the industry's hottest drops. So if you guys want to access that, the link is in the description. We appreciate you guys for watching this, and we'll catch you in the next one.